What's going on, guys? In this video, I want to discuss Hu Tao's talent level priorities. I'll be backing all my information provided in this video with math to help you make the best decision on which talents to focus on and what to level these talents to. I haven't really seen any good videos on YouTube that provided proof behind Hu Tao's talent level priorities for maximum DPS and thought this video could help some people. I have, however, seen some content creators with high level elemental bursts, which I think is misleading as this is done primarily to hit high damage numbers under unrealistic circumstances for the purpose of flexing on YouTube. If that is how you like to play, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, if you want to optimize your DPS for realistic scenarios, I do not think this is the best approach. With the way Hu Tao's elemental skill works, being an overall damage multiplier for her kit rather than a normal skill that does damage, it was not entirely clear to me what to prioritize. Not only are high-level talents a huge resin investment from farming talent books and Mora, but they also rely on RNG from weekly boss drops. You could go weeks without getting a single shard from Child. Whenever something in this game is this important and is so heavily based on RNG, it's always important to make an informed decision that will best benefit your account. Upgrading talents is one of the best investments you can make into a character for an improvement in damage output or utility, but high-level talents will slow your overall account progress as they require such a big investment in a single character. After getting my first 36-star Spiral Abyss clear last weekend with Hu Tao as a main DPS, I decided that I'm going to crown my first talent. I'll leave my floor 12 footage playing in the background. Because of this, I wanted to figure out the best talents to level for the greatest overall DPS boost, and what level I should reasonably aim to get these talents to in the short term. With the lack of new characters coming in patch 1.4, it's a good time for me personally to work on some of the characters I already have and invest my resin into them. It is nearly impossible to constantly pull and build new characters while investing more into the current characters in my roster. For the first time on my account, I have leveled up 2 characters to level 90, who are Hu Tao and Ganyu, as well as their weapons. To do this, I had to make a conscious effort to not invest into other characters for some time. I'm going to try and make this video a little more useful than for just people wondering which Hu Tao talents to invest into, so first let's briefly look at talent costs and resin investment required. To go from talent level 1 to 6, it will take 3 green books, 21 blue books, and 122,500 Mora, along with whatever common or elite enemy materials are needed. This overall investment is pretty low from a resin perspective and can be done in about a day or two of farming. In my opinion, the first talent goal you should have with any main DPS is to get all of their talents to level 6. You may never level some past that point, but that is a good point to stop, as the resin investment is relatively low, and these upgrades don't rely on RNG from boss drops. Levels 7 and 8 are definitely more investment heavy and require weekly boss drop materials, but the resin investment is still manageable in my opinion. On average, at domain level 4, we can get around 1 gold book per run, making talent level 7 about a 1-day resin investment from the previous talent level, and talent level 8 about another 2-day investment. The resin cost for Mora was also considered in these calculations. When we first started to receive the Crowns of Insight, I was worried about who to give this rare resource to. As time has gone on, it has become apparent that finding the time and resin to even get a single talent to talent level 10 is much more rare than the crowns have been. Talent level 10 requires around 16 talent book runs, 12 more ley lines, RNG boss drops, and a Crown of Insight. This is about a 4-day resin investment from talent level 9 and relies on the availability of a crown and getting lucky with weekly boss drops. So it is definitely a commitment that should be reserved only for characters that will really benefit from it and who you anticipate using for a long time. Now let's get into the real substance of the video, Hu Tao talent priorities and damage calculations at different levels of investment. For the purpose of this video, I'm using my current Hu Tao stats and not factoring in any bonuses from low health with the Staff of Homa. This bonus affects her entire kit equally, so it does not need to be considered. When calculating damage, I'm also not considering resistance that a particular enemy may have, just the raw damage output from Hu Tao. Any increased reaction damage from the EM stat or any artifact set bonuses have also not been included in the calculations. The point of these calculations is to simply compare damage scaling at different talent levels and is not intended to calculate actual damage numbers. Currently, my Hu Tao has 38,443 max HP, 1,462 total attack, which consists of 715 base attack and 748 additional attack, 94.6% pyro damage bonus at low HP, and 209% crit damage. To calculate damage, we're using the basic formula shown here, where raw damage, neglecting enemy resistance and reactions, is equal to the skill percent multiplier on Hu Tao's normal attack or elemental burst times Hu Tao's total attack times Hu Tao's pyro damage bonus. When this is a critical hit, this total damage calculated is multiplied by 1 plus critical damage percent. Hu Tao's elemental skill is unique in that instead of actually causing damage itself, it increases Hu Tao's attack by a percentage of her max HP, and this percentage increases with her skill level. To determine her new total attack when E is activated, we use the equation shown. Her new attack is equal to her base attack, plus her non-base attack stats from weapons and artifacts, plus the attack gain from her elemental skill. With that out of the way, let's look at Hu Tao's talent multipliers at the various levels. In the case of her first talent, we're only considering charge attacks, as this gives her the maximum possible DPS. For her elemental burst, we're only considering the damage percent at low HP, as this is her optimal playstyle. We can see that her charge attack damage scales from 135% to 242%, her base attack boost scales from 3.84% to 6.26% of her max HP, and her burst scales from 379% to 617%. Factoring in my Hu Tao's max HP of approximately 38,000, my attack boost gained with her skill goes from 1,476 to 2,407, which is a considerable difference. As a baseline damage for comparison, we'll use Hu Tao with all of her talents at talent level 6. I assumed a 9-second DPS window with a 15-second cooldown to match the uptime on her elemental skill. During this window, I assumed that an average player could perform a total of 7 charge attacks in a single elemental burst. In reality, the number of charge attacks can theoretically be higher, especially with C1 Hu Tao or through animation canceling, as I was able to perform 9 with Hu Tao at C0, but I feel 7 is a safer estimate. Additionally, it may not be feasible to perform an elemental burst every skill rotation, but to make the calculations fair, this is what we'll assume. I'll put a link to my spreadsheet in the description in case you want to take a closer look at what I've done, but I will warn you it is a bit messy. First, let's take a look at damage calculations for all talents at level 6, which will serve as a baseline for comparison. With Hu Tao's E active, my total attack is 3,407. Without reactions, Hu Tao's charge attack with crit does 25k and her burst does 67k. Assuming the DPS window we discussed, with a total of 7 charge attacks and a burst, the total damage with crit is 244k. If we're vaporizing on all of these hits, which is possible with Xingqiu, this total damage increases to 366k. Because this damage increase is the same across the board, we'll ignore it for future calculations. Okay, let's look at a summary of overall DPS using the previously stated assumptions. If we're only upgrading a single talent to level 8, we get the biggest DPS boost by upgrading the normal and charge attack at 8% over the base damage. This just barely outscales upgrading the elemental skill. This tells us that hands down, these are the 2 talents to prioritize. Upgrading her burst to level 8 only increases her overall DPS during the rotation by 3%. Next, I wanted to see what happens if we only increase her normal and charge attack talent level to 9 and 10. Here we do gain a good amount of additional overall damage, but level 10 talents are very expensive and not actually worth the investment here over other options if we plan to stop upgrading talents at this point. We can actually get about the same overall DPS increase at half of the cost by upgrading both the normal attack and skill to level 8 with significantly less gold books required, at only 20 books versus the 38 to crown a single skill. Therefore, this is a much more cost-effective option than crowning the normal attack talent exclusively. If you're slowly working on Hu Tao, I think I would actually recommend splitting your resources more evenly while saving up for further upgrades. Upgrading her burst to level 8 as well only increases overall DPS by 4%, which is not necessarily worth the additional 10 gold books if you're trying to save resources. If you're willing to invest heavily into Hu Tao, I think that getting her normal attack talent level to 10 and her elemental skill to 8 is a good place to stop. At this level of investment, we do 30% more damage overall than we did when keeping everything at talent level 6. In general, the talent level priority here goes normal attack, elemental skill, and then elemental burst in that order. From my calculations, it is most cost effective to keep your normal attack and elemental skill talent levels within 2 of each other and divide your resources accordingly. The thing we're not considering here is healing from her burst, as well as the opportunity to one-shot bosses, which does have its value, especially in the current Abyss. If you plan to run Hu Tao without a dedicated healer, or only with someone like Xingqiu who does very limited healing, your leveling priority on her burst may be increased. And if you do have a team assembled that takes use of reactions, bonuses from artifact sets like Veritas and Venerer, or weapon passives like the Thrilling Tales, upgrading her burst further, at least for the current high-level content in the game, could be more beneficial. That's all I got for you guys today. If you guys found this video helpful and informative, please consider subscribing down below. I put out a Genshin Impact video just like this one every single week. I'll see you guys for the next video. Peace.